Hi, I'm Dave Khare with Lightspeed Venture Partners. We're a early stage venture capital fund with offices in the Bay Area, China, India, and Israel. We've been here in India for 5 years and are very excited about a lot of the entrepreneurs and companies being built here. There's two types of mobile companies that we see being built. One is sort of a category that's focused on the Indian market, and the second is for global markets. And we talked about this at the MobiSparks conference today. On the global side, there's the obvious, app stores as placement, but not as discovery necessarily. And for that, we believe a lot of startups have to do other types of promotional activities. It could be an initial $5,000 or $10,000 campaign on a mobile ad network to get going. It could be identifying an early adopter group and literally getting the first top 100 people on board first, and then spreading the word from there. It could be some of these pay for placement type of app stores that are out there, like Appia and Getchar and others. And most importantly, it's building a great product, because when you have a great product, the word spreads by itself. In India, I think it's a bit more difficult. You have to deal with the carriers a bit more. Going forward, we are less optimistic about startups that rely on carriers to get distribution, and we are we're quite interested in supporting and building companies that are going direct to consumer in the mobile space, and there we have problems like monetization that we can talk about as well. I don't think at the end of the day, if you look 4, 5, 7 years out, which is sort of our time frame when we invest in a company, I don't think the models are going to be that different from the US and China and Europe. It's going to be subscriptions, it's going to be in-app purchases, it's going to be paid apps, it's going to be advertising, and so on. Different categories monetize in different ways. Gaming is completely in-app purchase driven. Media is completely advertising driven and subscriptions driven. So we'll see. I think for India-based, India-focused market applications, we have to see two things happen. One is over-the-top payments come in through third-party payment services, whether it's through carrier billing integration or aggregation, or whether it's a PayPal-like thing where you have credit and debit sort of on file somehow. Secondly, we need the carriers to reduce their rev shares, kind of like Vodafone has done, and I've written about that on our blog at Nextwala. But it'll take a few years, and I think the key right now is for startups to really have low burn, to not spend anything on marketing, to just get going and make sure your product has high engagement and high retention and gets to a reasonable user base. I think that's the key over the next 18 to 24 months, 2012, 2013 into early 2014. I think beyond that, as we get to what we believe will be about 50, 60 million smartphones by the end of next year, and 200, 250 million mobile internet users in India, I think that becomes a big enough market where payment options will become available. Folks like Google will come in and talk to all the carriers and set up carrier billing integration. Folks like Apple potentially could come in, although that's always going to be a smaller percentage of the market. So we'll see, but I think the key right now is to keep lean as a startup for the next 18 to 24 months and build a great product. When we looked at mobile over the last 12 months or so, our thesis, part of our thesis rests on which of these categories we think will be big. We think, and we've written about this again on our blog a lot, we think that entertainment will be a big category. Some people call it infotainment, some people call it ABCD, right, on the vast side. But it's going to be music, behind which we've made our first investment, Tingana, which is a music streaming company. It might be video, which a number of people today talked about. We've seen the ViewClip funding recently, which has been interesting. And I think from what I hear in the market, there have been some other fundings in the video space as well. YouTube is doing really well here. So I think video is clearly a category that will do well. It has to be cracked in a bigger way still. And then the third category in entertainment is gaming. There we see very few startups to date, but I think there can be more that emerge over time. I think that needs to wait for smartphones to arrive in a big way. The second category we see is communications. And we've seen a number of companies, Nimbus, Rocket Talk, Hike was launched recently in that area. We'll wait to see the money-making ability of many of these companies, but that's the second category. That'll be big, we believe. Facebook is, could classify it as a communications application. And then beyond that, there's a set of verticals: financial services, payments. There is education, there's healthcare, and other things that could emerge. But beyond that, I don't think it's going to be necessarily that different from what you see on the app stores today. I think for startups today, the key is not to try and clone something that exists elsewhere, because that's available on the App Store anyway, or on the Android marketplace. The key is to do something that's unique to India, or that's not been done on the global scale yet. I know it's a big ask, but I think startups need to do that. First of all, go talk to Your Story and get promoted through them. But after that, and go through the Mobi Sparks and Tech Sparks program. But after that, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but our blog has some pointers on how to go pitch investors, what to have in your pitch, how to think about vision, how to think about team, how to think about the early metrics that you want to hit when you're building a startup. And some of those things need to be in there. Unfortunately, time after time, over here we see a lot of, and even in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, everywhere, we see a lot of startups that just haven't thought through what the big vision is. We see startups where there's a founder who's not got a co-founder, and I think a co-founder is, especially a technical co-founder, is really important when building a technology-powered startup. We see startups that haven't thought through what those early success metrics will be, and they don't talk about what those success metrics will be. We see startups who don't even pitch their startups right. They start talking about numbers rather than vision and how they want to disrupt the market, and just thinking a bit bigger, thinking about how you want to dominate some industry over time, thinking about how you're going to execute to get there in a world-beating fashion. I think that's some of what we look for. There's no science to it; it's an art. But lots of companies have done it in India and elsewhere, and we look forward to seeing many more startups do that.